freaks and anorex, thanks for tuning in. Welcome to part 2 of this maple refret tutorial. In part 1 you could see how to get the frets out. Today we will install the new ones. Before we do this, I like to clean out those fret slots with a saw. Not a usual fret saw, but a slightly narrow one. Quite often there is some glue residue inside those slots, which I like to remove. Don't go wild with your saw here, as we don't want to cut these slots any much deeper. It's just a cleaning operation. We will check the slot depth later. It's time to remove the neck, obviously with a correct fitting screwdriver. Not an Irish screwdriver, that's something else. Now, speaking of checking the fret slot depth, I like to make my own tool from the fret wire we're going to use by nipping off a small piece and removing some material from the tang. Making this fret slot depth gouge tool, oh what a name! Anyways, making it takes some time, but it's good file handling practice and it's that cheap. If you don't lose it like I always do, you only have to make it once for this fret size. Behold your shop-made custom tool before using it. How it works is really easy. Drop it into the fret slot and slide it around. If it moves freely and doesn't lift up, you're good to go. To make sure no debris is left inside the slots, I like to hit them with compressed air. Please use ear protection when doing this. This noise is really bad for your ears and can damage them. Now let's prep the steel first and pre-bend the wire. I slightly overbend it to the fretboard radius. After I get the gunk off with acetone. Check out the dirt on the cotton wool. Now let's get those frets in. I cut them to length with the homemade fret pulling pliers. They were perfect for this job. After cutting, I double check the length. I like to have some overhang. Then I run some thick CA glue in the fret slots. Not too much, not too little. I hold the fret in my left hand and place it over the slot. Once it's in position, I tap in the ends with a small hammer. Then we move over to the press and push the fret in. When it's in, we check if it's seated correctly. Okay, one more time. Add glue. Place a fret over the slot. Tap the ends in. Move over to the press. Push the fret in. Check if it's seated correctly. When all the frets are in, grab a coffee and let the glue cure. Time to get our favorite pliers out again and nip off the overhang. Place them flush along the side of the fretboard. With your left hand, apply some downward pressure and cut off the ends. A very important note, always find the cutoffs and bin them immediately. If they get under the neck, you'll find dents and scratches later. You will wonder where they came from. Rinse and repeat at both sides. Now let's have a look at those fret ends. It's almost impossible to get them perfectly flush with the pliers. I did a pretty lousy job here, obviously for demonstration purposes only. We will use a file to get them flush and give them a bit of an angle. A brief note about files. A file is never perfectly straight. One side will be convex, the other side will be concave. This happens during the production process of files. Now here is proof that a file is squiff. In this case, it works in our advantage. I'll be using the convex side down, so the both ends of the file do not dig into the side of the neck. You can make a tool that holds a file to make the flush filing job a bit more easy. I do it without, as my filing skills are not too bad. Again, go easy. You don't want to remove material from the neck, only the fret ends. Once a while, run your fingers over the side. You will feel how much the frets are sticking out. If they stick out quite a bit, I like to approach them from another angle. Here is a shot from another perspective. When you start filing again after a wee break, check the file. Remember, convex side down. The first fret is sticking out a bit much, so I approach it from another angle. When done filing the bevel, triple check by feel. You should be able to run your finger along the neck without bumping into the fret ends. When in doubt, use a smooth object, like a scalpel handle, to run over the fret ends. Again, it should slide over without bumping into the fret ends. Note that I slightly angle it. If the ends are still too long, you'll get this, a bumpy ride. Let's inspect our work. You'll see the beveled fret ends. Now, the angle of this bevel varies from the one guitar to the other. Some strats have a narrow neck. Do not bevel these ends too much. If you do, you can start over again, as the strings will slide off the fret ends. In that case, the guitar will be unplayable. Before attaching the neck again, I like to make sure the neck pocket is free of dirt. Also, the bottom has to be nice and flat. I like to use an uber sharp chisel and a steady hand for this job. You could use some sandpaper glued to a stick or even a scraper. Again, our favorite cleaning brush comes out and we check with our finger if all the bumpy stuff is gone. After removing some waxy stuff, a bit of paint and unevenness, we can screw the neck back in place. I preset the micro tilt screw as I know this guitar can benefit from a bit wider neck angle. Let's restring this puppy uber fast. And bring her up to pitch. When the guitar is in tune, I check the neck relief. Have a good look. And strike a chord. Once overviewed, I like to do a quick setup. Fine-tuning is for later. Starting with adjusting the truss rod and checking the relief again. I set the strings in a 9.5 inch radius by adjusting the saddle height. Now a quick check before leveling. I'm expecting some errors. Here we go. See, or rather hear? I always get carried away and start playing. Let's get the fret rocker out to memorize where the high spots are. Time to strap up the guitar. I love this neck jig. When you do a lot of setups and refrets, it's well worth the money. This jig saves me a lot of time going back and forth leveling frets. The idea behind this setup is to simulate the string tension when doing the level. When the guitar is secured to the jig, I check the relief. We need a straight neck now. First checking when the guitar is laying down. Then we tilt over the jig in playing position. Check again and fine-tune when needed. Obviously, we tune the guitar first. In this case, I'm getting the exact same readings. Please note, you have to use a notched straight edge to check the neck. The footage was so shaky, I've sent it over to the freshly photographed black hole. As I'm getting the same readings, I dial in when the guitar is in working position. We center the meters under the neck. And zero out the dial indicators. Stumek made a how to use video about the neck jig. Check it out when you want to know more. Here is a fancy shot I like. By the way, if you have any questions or remarks, please leave them in the comment section below. Now I'm moving the neck support rods into place. They will keep the neck in position when doing the work. Everything is dialed in, so we can remove the strings. Now the tension is gone, the neck moved a bit. We have to do some tweaking so the dials are reading 0 again. It's a fiddly thing, but believe me, you get there eventually by going back and forward. This is the end of part 2. Thanks so much for watching. Feel free to subscribe and hit that bell to get notified when new videos are available. I hope to see you in part 3.